This is the Oakwyn Podcast, featuring Morgan Browne and Michael Yu.
And welcome to the Oakwyn Podcast. I am Morgan Browne.
Michael Yu.
And I'm the Podfather.
And we're here for another episode of the Oakwyn Podcast.
That's right. And we're at a very fancy and special place. This is our first podcast we're doing out of Braden's new studio.
Can we just talk about
Yeah, let's talk about where we're at right now.
how dope this space is?
Yeah.
That's right. Dope.
Yeah, and it was so unimpressive walking up to it. so just to give you some context. So,
It's true. That's by design.
yeah, that's by design. Okay. So we're in the heart of Strathcona in Vancouver, East Vancouver. Braden,
What is Strathcona? Tell them what Strathcona is.
Strathcona is a
What's
really...
the history?
The history is... what? Well,
Actually, Braden, you tell us the history. You live here.
Yeah.
Gather around, my friends.
Okay. Campfire. Here we go.
Strathcona, and this is, you can correct me if I'm wrong about any of this, but it's the very first area that Vancouver was built around. It was built around the old Hastings Mill. So if you look around in this area, like everything's heritage, everything's 100 years old. My house here is 1906, I think. And back in the day, they built houses on 25-foot lots. And so the houses are like literally almost touching each other. Like my house is built on my neighbor's property line. And then in, 1898 or something, that mill burnt down and burnt down basically the entire city. There was like 6 houses left. And so after that, they decided to switch to 33-foot lots. And that's why the rest of the city is 33. But all of Strathcona pretty much is 25-foot
and
lots.
it's bordering on like one of the other most like heritage places in our city, which is Chinatown, which is so rich in culture down here.
That's right.
So when you come down here, it's kind of like got this like chewy. You know, that's a new word. Chuggy. Chuggy.
It's chuggy? I've never heard of that before.
Chuggy is like, chuggy means like,
Isn't that like a lollipop? Chuggy choop?
It's got this like brand, like, it's got this kind of, what's chuggy mean? Chuggy.
So there's a flavor, right?
No. It's chuggy is like, chuggy means.
Does it sound like.
Okay, so it says chuggy is a slang adjective to mocking somebody or something that's uncool. That's not what it means.
That's not what it means. Okay.
It means something else in TikTok.
So Strathcona is, it's a really kind of hip neighborhood.
Hip.
There's a lot of breweries around here. This is where a lot of artists are. There's a lot of kind of cool culture. There is a little bit of a drug culture here as well.
Drugs?
Yeah, there's, it's along that the kind of downtown east side Hastings corridor area, but, it's really being transformed. So it's funny. I was walking up to Braden's studio and it looks from the outside like a tired, broken garage. And then you walk inside. It's like Shangri-La.
We're in the Shangri-La right now.
It's kind of like...
I think that adds
it's like Wakanda.
like...
From Black Panther.
You have to be like in this kind of like artistic kind of mindset, especially when you're doing a pod, because you're just supposed to just let it all go, right? You're supposed to just drop all your boundaries and just kind of like be vulnerable. And I think that's what that made me feel like when I came in. I was like, it's like I'm not at this like fancy dancy business meeting at the Bayshore, Weston. We're like in this place where we have to be ourselves, and it's cool.
Yeah.
You should wonder if you're going to get shanked when you walk into a nice recording studio.
That's right. Just in case, I locked my door and I checked again.
I brought my whistle with me. So.
I have my mace.
Oh, you have your mace. Okay, I
actually had mace growing up.
Really?
So my parents
Harlem World.
mace, and like we had these like, I don't know if you, well, I can't say it was like a yellow box, and if you pulled it would alarm off.
Oh, really?
Because I have 3 sisters, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So girls, like my mom and dad like really prepared us. Like,
yeah, totally.
You need to have this. You need to have this. You're walking, and I was like, because we were always like, let us walk home from school or let us be independent.
Right.
And they're like, okay, if you're gonna do that, you're gonna here's a little mace, and here's like a little pole thing. And I had in my bag, like all 3 of us had in our bags. It was so funny.
Yeah. When you're an ugly kid, you don't worry about mace. No one was touching me or my brothers.
One of the benefits.
That was the repellent. We didn't need mace. Just look at us. We're like, we're not touching that kid.
But seriously, it's good to have it. Good to have it, people.
Yeah, right. Well, it's such an honor to. I think we're one of the inaugural podcasts out of the Podfather studios here, which is pretty cool to be part of the
Should we all like light a candle? Like, should we like every pod light a candle?
They say in Hanukkah.
I don't think it's big enough in here for that. It'd be a lot of candles.
And I think that it might burn down. No.
It might burn down.
Yes.
It might burn down.
It'd be used to fire fires in this area.
That's true. The bushes down there are always on fire once a week.
Wow, really? That's like Moses stuff.
Yeah.
This is a cool neighborhood, though.
Yeah, it is.
It's
a
a
cool
super cool
neighborhood,
area, and it's super close to our favorite brewery, which we were just talking
we're just
about.
talking about Superflux, which is plug for Superflux. It's just cool.
We're gonna plug you, Superflux. That's right.
We want
If
this
you haven't
podcast
been-
sponsored.
Oh my god!
Exactly.
First of all, can we do this?
Yeah.
Can we get it sponsored by beer? Oh my god, we got to work on this. Superflex is really cool. It's super close by, but they have really good food there. We were just talking about their swag, their food. It's so good. So we're in like a good.
I like it
neighborhood.
when I like it because it's a very Vancouver place. It's like it's a brewery here, and it's a great place to hang out too. And I just love when people like do something started and it becomes really cool and good, just like this.
Look at this spot. Look at the studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys can't see it, but there's a big white light to the right of me. There's a really
that's
cool
me.
lights.
But there's like there's
You're
an
like a
electronic-
cloud.
Oh yeah. I'm a cumulus cloud.
Yeah, you're a cumulus cloud.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what? I've been watching the Magic School Bus with
Oh
Quinn.
really? Have
'cause
you? Miss Frizzle.
Quinn, yeah, Miss Frizzle. First of all, Magic School Bus is so good. Like it's like at least I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna give Quinn something to watch, it has to be something that like he'll like really enjoy. And like he's 2.5, and yet he picked up a couple words the other day, and he goes, "More, mommy, do you remember yesterday when we were watching, like yesterday, like just came out of his vocab." And I was like, what was that from? And they were talking about the Magic School Bus.
Oh, wow.
But do you remember like the Magic School Bus, like Miss Frizzle?
Right.
They made it even cooler. Now.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, like I like it.
Is it
I
not
watch
from?
it.
It's not from like the 80s and 90s.
It's brand new,
cartoon?
and it's now Kristen from SNL. What's her name?
Kristen Wiig. I
Oh, it's a
think?
live action.
It's now no. It's still like animated.
Okay.
But what's her name? No, not Kristen. The most popular girl right now on SNL, the blonde one that was in like
Kate McKinnon?
McKinnon is Miss Frizzle now.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
are you serious?
So she's so funny. Like
she's
it's so good.
funny.
Yeah, watch it. It's
Isn't
good.
isn't it like Miss Frizzle's niece or
It is.
something?
Yes,
yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
But I still Miss Frizzle.
Yeah, of course.
What are you gonna do? But she's very cool. Anyways, that was it's weird when you have
I
kids
feel
and
like
then they
now-
come up.
Yeah, like
comes back to
now
you.
Yeah.
they're making the children's shows so that adults can watch them as well and still be entertained, and even like
Yes.
even
That's
like
how it should be.
yeah,
Yes.
I think that is how it should be. I think which is kind of cool
Yeah.
to see.
It's so cool.
I can't imagine I couldn't ever imagine like my parents watching cartoons with me, and they'd be like Ninja Turtles or something like that. They'd be like, "This is dumb."
It's just you know what it is. It's
Grow
like
up.
there's
Do
now you
taxes.
can't get away from screens. Like you can't. There's just when they're in a restaurant, there's screens. If they're at the classrooms, there's screens. Like so, you just have to
What do you
make
think
it.
about that?
I mean, I think that we really were lucky because we got to see it without it. Like
Mm-hmm.
because we witnessed like a little bit of both it coming in, right? Where my parents, they feel like they didn't get to learn enough because they didn't have enough, like they didn't have screens.
Right.
Like they really kept it very narrow.
Do you think that limits creativity?
I think you
Or
as a parent,
reframes creativity?
I think you as a parent just have to make sure that you don't overdo it. Like I was talking to a couple parents and they were like, yeah, like we allow screen time and there's like a limit of time that you're allowed to do it. And I think that's a way to do it because then you're not like making it foreign. They're not going to run off to their friend's house and watch TV the whole entire time. They're still like, it's not foreign, right?
Yeah.
But my son, like when
It's hard
he's,
to like create that what's the healthy balance?
I think just being neutral about it. Like
I think
making
even
it,
for ourselves, like,
Yeah.
because I feel like, even the time, like it's weird, even the time walking, like my best ideas are always for some unknown reason in the shower. It's because I'm not consuming anything.
it's your shower. It's your shower.
I'm admiring
You're
the-
admiring your physique.
Oh yeah. I'm flexing, of course.
Yeah.
That's when I get my best ideas. When I'm like shadow boxing. Like, oh yeah. You're hot.
Oh, that's a good idea. I got to write that down.
I'll write it in a steam shower.
Is that where you get your best ideas? Is in the shower? Yeah, I think
do.
I knew that. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're just doing something that's not like, you don't have like I purposely don't listen to music,
Yes.
and don't listen to things and consume things. And like that's where kind of ideas and creativity sometimes happen is in like times where you're not
in rest almost.
in rest. And
yeah.
you know, when you're in front of a screen, you're consuming, right? You're in this like
Yes.
You're in a receiving mode.
you're in
exactly.
Instead of a
Exactly.
creating mode.
Yeah.
Yes,
So you're
yes.
in this receiving mode, and I feel like a lot of people have this posture of I'm receiving,
Yes.
whereas like, you know, I think in business you want to be creating, you want to be like doing and kind of like in this kind of action oriented behavior. But then, you know, if you're accustomed to like, let's say as a child or even now, if you're accustomed to consuming 90% of your time, then it's kind of foreign to be kind of creating and doing these things. And you know what I mean? Like, I feel like you got to strike a healthy proportion, because I think you can stay on, like, I could stay on the internet morning till night and actually not feel very bored or lonely.
You know what's weird though? Like attention span, like my son, like he kind of like, because I've kind of always made it like not so foreign, because the truth is Sean and I use it for business. We're on our phones. We don't want to make it look like we're not, you know, whatever. But he just is like done. He sometimes is just like 15 minutes. He's like, okay, I'm going to go outside. Like he doesn't, because I've made it not foreign. It's just like sweets. Like I have like, sometimes I'll have like a jar of Smarties and like some prunes.
If you make it forbidden, then
like,
it becomes like
he just doesn't even touch the Smarties.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, that's right. Do you guys know any like parents who don't let their kids have any screen time, and then like that once a week when they can get their hands on it, they're just like they don't want to let it go, and they're like, and you have to like they do shake,
like sugar.
and you have to pry it. You see the parents prying it out of their arms, and they scream for an hour and a half.
And they scream, and you're like, oh my God. And then they make this huge thing. So I'm like, they just need to have a little bit of time and not make it feel like it's so like it's forbidden.
Do you think that would be helpful for adults too?
I think that, like, for instance, I went away to Egmont this summer, and Egmont, which was like right past Half Moon Bay on Sunshine Coast.
There's a place called Egmont?
Yeah.
I thought you mispronounced Edgemont.
I just have like this vision of like this egg.
Okay, first of all,
like little egg people.
if no one has
Like,
what?
like egg fantasy. I'm like, maybe I'm listening to I'm
What are
reading
you
too many.
watching?
I'm reading children's books like nonstop. Like, you know, obviously
This is doing
baby
good
coming.
things for your brain. Yeah, I like
And
it.
then now, like, you're like, I went to Egmont, and you're like, Egmont is where all the eggs live.
Actually, Egmont is super cool if anyone's never been there. It's like this really quaint, tiny little place past Meridian Park, past Painted Boat. And it's like really, but they don't have any service. Like you can't get service. And so we went with like a couple friends, and it like forced us to shut off, right?
Right.
And it was awesome. Like, I mean, it was super, we just spent time on the ocean, jumped in the lake, like, you know.
Yeah.
It made us less, you know,
Do you feel like
more present, I guess.
like this is a woo-woo crazy tinfoil hat stuff, but like, you know, we're always surrounded with Wi-Fi and all the networks, and we're like above us there's like you know, wires that are having like electricity getting through it. Do you find like, because I was on the island as well, I was in Salt Spring, and they do have service there. It's very
Little.
it's a little less.
Yeah.
It's not that much. And yeah, you just feel like a little bit. Do you think that there's something in the air? There's probably something.
I mean, yeah, but if I wasted my time thinking about the stupid things that just like, like I think if
Thanks for shooting down my. This is good pod. Hey, you're stupid.
This is what people want to hear.
Miss Egghead, who came from Egmont. And I
honestly,
think your ideas
this
are
is
stupid.
the thing. This is the thing. I don't worry about the things I cannot control. Like I'm living in this city that is giving us so much breadth of like being in so many different things. Like, did you guys see that interactive thing underneath the bridge where it's like painted?
Oh yeah.
And then it makes, you have to
Under
see
Canby
this.
Bridge?
It's under the Canby Bridge.
Yeah.
And if you put your phone up to it, it like illuminates, and it kind of makes this
I didn't know it
incredible
did that.
graphic thing.
That was a very rave move. You just did.
That type of thing you can never find somewhere else. It's so creative. And because of that, I think that to your point, like there's some things that will make you even more creative, because you're seeing things that are so incredibly creative. So it's almost like both. Do you know what I mean? Like you can shut off and take the time out to like rest, but then you also need to be able to push your mind and see what other people's creative juices are to go even further than that.
Yeah.
So there's like both. So I think the city is like the best part. But yeah, to answer your question, I don't think about like the waves of everything. Should I be? Are you nervous about that?
No, I'm not nervous about it, but I just, I wonder the impact. Like, I like to question things. I wonder the impact
good,
of like,
Mike.
yeah, wonder the impact of like, because maybe it's because I'm away from work and, just being away itself is its own kind of like set your brain waves in a different mode. But then, I feel like when I'm at home and not at home, but like at work, like my brain waves are a little bit more kind of like, a little bit, there's a little bit more of a buzz. But then when I go on the island or if I go up to Whistler or something like
you
that,
rest. Yeah.
I feel like, there's that kind of rhythm. It might just be like going away and getting to take a little bit of a break or a breather.
Yeah.
So it might just be that. It might
But
not be.
you just have to kind of also take the time, which I know you do, is literally like ground yourself into this nature. Like, like go and take your shoes off, walk into the soil, like ground yourself to the earth. Sometimes you feel like you're so frazzled because you're always on the run. But like I told that to Arlene the other day, I'm telling him but Arlene was like, I've got so much stuff going on. I'm like, you are like staticky. You need to go into the nature and just like sit there. Like, and she's like, okay. But I'm like, you're almost like not realizing, it's, you just like are constantly repetitive and you're not really like taking yourself down to the earth and putting yourself
How
there.
do you do that?
I just walk through the like woods. I just walk through the wood, or best for me, it's the ocean, right? That's part of the reason why I want to live near the ocean is just being in that like natural wave and being able to see it is really like, it's really special.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's very interesting because so we went to Salt Spring last weekend or this a few days ago, and we just kind of drove around the island and basically Pri and I were like, we would just like go to random places, and there was like this dead end road and we just didn't know where it led to. So we actually just like went down this dead end road with a child, and then it was like rough, rocky. I was like, this isn't really safe, but we'll do it anyway. And then we just ended it, and then there was like this dead end, and then right at the end of this dead end, there's a little pathway, and we didn't know where it was gonna lead. So Pri went there first, and she's like, hey, it's the ocean here, and there's like a tiny private beach, and then there was like these little rocks that enter like, and she's like, you got to go check it out. So she went out there first, enjoyed it a little bit, and Soph was sleeping. So I got to go over there, and I did just that. Actually, I went and I was in the ocean. I like kind of took off my socks and shoes and stuff like that. And I just kind of like sat in it for a while. And
you gotta have those spots that you go to. Like for me, it's like Tofino. Like, you know me, I'm always in Tofino. It's like when I think that's where I think the best. It's like I'm at the tip of the ocean. It's like Hawaii to me. It's like I come up with these crazy ideas because I'm in this like different headspace. And you just need to you shouldn't have to do that to like get to that when you go away. Like I'm trying to figure out a way to get there every day. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, totally.
And like, I don't know how people do like what we do without having moments to just enjoy life. You know what I mean? Like really enjoy your life.
Right.
I was listening to just an interview with this psychologist with Oprah, and she was talking about like, when your spirit is like your intuition, right? When your intuition is the strongest. And she said that your intuition is the strongest when you're not betraying yourself and you're in the most still place, right? And I think that that's like getting to that place on a regular basis.
And I think that's
important.
key word is stillness, because I feel like with technology and everything like that, people aren't kind of being still, there's these kind of some, a lot of like entrepreneurial kind of handbooks talk about meditation and kind of like getting into some like certain state, but it does feel a bit forced, kind of like you're booking it in like an appointment, you know what I mean? Kind of situation. And I think, really reflecting as to like how you could actually attain that stillness and like, we're basically, whether that's, through a meditation or through some going to a place, I used to I get up really early and, that's kind of my time. And, I do either go for a walk or like
Has it been harder since you've had a kid?
For sure. There's so many things like, and I used to think you guys were weak. Like,
I know.
I'm like,
I know.
You're weak. You're undisciplined. You don't.
Yeah, and it's true. But everybody with a kid gets
Yeah.
Weak and
Yeah, I
undisciplined.
was
we are.
like,
We
you're
are
like
weak
weak and
and
undisciplined.
disciplined.
Then you get
And-
stronger.
Then you get stronger,
Yeah.
and this is it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like I've judged you for many years. And
He's not even joking. He's like,
Yeah.
I can do it better. I can do it better than you.
Yeah.
And then it happens. You're like, shit, I have no time for myself.
Right. Yeah.
God, this is really hard.
Yeah.
so it's kind of like, it's obviously an adjustment. And whenever there's a change, you got to make the appropriate adjustments. And you want to keep the, you want to, I think we talked about this in one of our previous podcasts, like stop, keep, change or something like that. So
Yeah.
like things you want to stop, things you want to keep, things you want to
Exactly.
change.
Yeah.
So like, you got to kind of figure out what you want to stop, what you want to keep, and what you want to change. And so like,
That's why I did that. That's why I did that like recent reel TikTok, like for people to be like, what can I do to like and keep and like to keep things in their lives, to keep them like as a parent, to
yeah,
keep
people
them
keep
feeling
talking
like
to me
you.
about it. It's really annoying. You're like some weird celebrity now.
No way. You know what? I'm not trying to be a
Brayden's
celebrity
wife
at all.
even knew about it.
Yeah, she was stoked.
You know what it is? I am really afraid to put myself out there. Mike knows this. And this was the first step, was him bringing me on this pod. Mike was the one that made me do this pod, FYI. Because he was like, you should do it with us. It'll be better. And then now I'm like, I should probably, if I'm going to do my life purpose, it's got to be on a larger platform. So that's why I'm doing these reels.
Yeah, so tell us about the reel.
The reel is, someone asked me on, this is how it started,
Okay.
on Messenger, asked me like, how do you keep your life going while you have kids? And I was like, oh, that's like really hard. Like, how do you keep yourself, your spirit like lifted and stuff? And I was like, oh, that's like a normal, like
Do you
that.
struggle with that?
No, I don't. Because I always put myself first.
Okay.
I'm this sounds really, moms have to put themselves first. We are like the only people that can keep this family going.
That's
Like, it's
absolutely
just
true.
I believe that to be true.
Yes. So if you are not in your best state, you're not in your best state for your children, your husband, your business. So you have to put yourself first. Like this morning, everyone was sleeping. It was like 6 o'clock. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna get out of bed. And I went downstairs and I did like a workout and I did some like stretching. And I like knew that was important for me to be in tip top shape. So the reason why I did this reel was because I wanted people to be inspired to put themselves first and to like,
So you had 5 things, right?
yeah, so 5 things to keep yourself, like to, not lose yourself after having kids.
Right.
And so one was spending time like developing, like going on, listening to podcasts, reading books. It's really important to continually challenge yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Two was like go out with your girlfriends, like or your guy friends or whatever you guys want to do, and go and like drink wine, laugh, enjoy your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's really important this life is about having fun.
Right.
This is why we're on earth, people, is to have fun.
Yeah.
So go and enjoy yourself and get back into that laughter.
Force myself to have fun. Got it.
You don't have any problem with that. Mike has no problem with having fun. And three was to take care of self-care. So I go for facials every month. Right now I'm super red because I had laser yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
And so
Yeah.
I'm really
Yeah, you're still
red.
red.
I'm
Yeah.
a little red. Yeah.
It's good.
It's like, and that was like 3 was, that. And then 4, workout, get yourself sweating, like get yourself your adrenaline up. And 5 was spoil yourself. I think you got to do it. You like, don't be
How do you
afraid.
spoil yourself?
I buy clothes and I'm thinking about buying a hot tub, but I'm too cheap that I want a hot tub so bad, but I keep on looking at it and I'm like, it's so expensive. I
Yeah.
can't do it. It's so funny how I just like can't splurge on items like that. Or like cars. Like, I posted like, one of my main things is to get one of those speedster Porsche eventually when I'm like older.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, get it now. And I'm like, it's 60 grand. I can't do it. It's too much.
Right.
It's too much.
Yeah, I think those are really good tips, by the way.
For moms especially, like don't be afraid to like ask your husband. I had a couple came over the other day and she's like, yeah, like I just don't have any time off. Like I have no time off. I'm just always running with the kids. And I'm like, well, have you asked your husband to take the kids? And she's like, I don't want to bother him. And I'm like, ooh, that's like a red flag. You as a team, you have to put yourself.
I think
and
as a
ask
husband,
them.
you want to do that for for your wife.
But wives don't want to. You want to.
Right.
But wives sometimes feel like it's their duty to take on everything. So you as a husband, I think you could just be like, I'm booked you a spa or I booked you for you to go and like do a workout at Legree or something like that, so that it's like normal and it's natural, right? What do you do for your wife, Brayden?
Well, I mean, aside from the random gestures of kindness and stuff, I don't really have to worry too much about. She doesn't hesitate to ask for time to do things.
Yes.
Like
Oh, good.
I basically need to ask for like an hour to cut some wood in my backyard kind of thing, because Lauren has she needs to be around people. COVID was really hard for her because she's a very social person. And so she's probably going out for happy hour twice a week kind of thing.
Good
and
girl.
so we're scheduling, and we go back. Actually, she goes out way more than I do because I'm just cutting wood all the time. And that's how I let off my steam.
Lauren.
I build studios.
She's and I think that she's strong. That's why she's a super strong. But some of the people need that assistance, like to be asked. Like,
Yeah. Well,
kind
there's
of
different forms of communication, right? Like that you could verbally, like someone could verbally tell you that, hey, I need this time specifically, but they can show you in other ways, right? Like,
Yeah. There comes a time when especially new parents, they just will break down. So the
Yes.
mom will just break down
Yeah.
because there's so much going on, and it's about time. There's always this like one time they'll break down, and then they'll get out of it because they have to, right? Because the baby's like needing it. Has Priya broken down yet? Is that too personal of a
yeah,
question?
No. We'll edit this out. Oh, you don't know. No, it's like
She beats me. She hits me.
turn off the cameras. No, I think there are obviously moments. I think specifically, when there's changes, there's gonna be moments, and I totally get and understand. But we're not perfect.
No.
We go through some struggles. Obviously,
human.
And I think as I put myself in her shoes, without having a family support structure around her, she came here from Mauritius. She doesn't have any family here. Baby really. Like Sophia is like obsessed with Pri.
Yeah.
Like it's like her whole like
They're
she's the
connected.
sun. Like if Sophia is the earth, like she's the sun. She gives like everything, right? And so which is a lot of pressure, and there's like lots of demands as well, right? And so I think I can understand. So there's been a couple moments, but I totally understand, and I think those tips are really great because it'll help me to understand a little bit better, and also to help to support as much as I can. But it's just
Soph and Len are going to be like buddies, and then before we know it, they'll be running around in our backyards together and like asking me to fly a freaking kite.
Yeah,
which I love.
Yeah, I know it's gonna it's gonna
goes
be
by
a lot
fast,
of fun,
right?
yeah, and I
It's
can't
like-
wait to see who's better. Because
Wow.
because that's what I'm really looking like. That's what I always. That's what I'm. looking
What's
at.
the one thing you want your daughter to like feel? Like, what's the one thing that you want them to feel? Have you thought about that? Like, really, like
Well, not to be like cliche, but I want her to feel love.
Yes.
Because I feel like that's the most powerful and great feeling that you can, to feel the feeling of loving and being loved by her family and by her friends and by her community, and and also being able to give love to other people, right? So
it's beautiful. Yeah.
we kind of do this thing every morning where we talk about every person that's in our life and like how we hope the best for them, and it's a lot of fun. And I noticed that she's very
She's gonna be so
3 months old,
compassionate.
but I hope that she's a loving person, and I'm sure that she's my kid, so she might not be that.
She should be funny. I hope she's funny.
Yeah.
Like Mike.
Yeah, but it's gonna but so that's kind of what I hope for. But I want to be able to just, she gets to decide what she wants, and that's why I'm a little bit more careful with things like social media and things like putting that side of it out there, because I want her to make those independent choices herself when she's ready to do that. And so like for me, it's just just setting things up so she has a lot of options, and she gets to choose, right, at the end of the day, what she wants to do, right?
Yeah,
As long
great.
as she does something better than Lenny, though.
They're so opposite because I'm
If she's
already
not, like,
look at my kid. She is so bright. You know what? It's funny. I want my kid.
You know, mine's a little bit brighter, but like just like a few percentage
Lennon
points
is
now.
going
but
to
then when
be
you project that over 80 years, like
a rock star. No, she's so smart. I can't handle it. And actually having a boy girl, it's like a totally different, like, whoa. But I think I really want my daughter to have this like sense that she's deserving of love, and she's like, you know, it's funny, like once you become a parent, you realize every single moment they're growing further and further apart from you, right? Because they're getting older and they're starting to leave you, kind of like, and so it's like they say that you spend all of your life raising your kid to be a good adult, right? Like you just want them to be a good adult.
Yeah. I wonder if one of our children will be the prime minister. Because that's what this podcast is about. It's about the election.
Oh my God.
I thought we were just going to jump to the next one.
Oh my God, this intro has gone half an hour.
I know,
so
that's the next one.
We got to fly.
Okay, so this, you know what, guys? We want to set a very neutral
That was
stance.
bad.
We want to set a really neutral stance.
Yeah, well,
to this, because FYI, we got called out from one of our brand saying, you know, this is, everyone has a choice.
So just
disclaim.
Yeah, just disclaim. So a big election's coming up. The federal election in Canada, September 20th is when you can vote. We're encouraging all Oakwynites and also all non-Oakwynites to listen to this podcast to participate, get to know the platforms. And, you know, we're going to talk a little bit about the elections, the different platforms, and something that's really cool, which is that on the platforms of each of the kind of parties that are participating, there's real estate. And so that's a big hot topic, you know, as really big pillars of their platform. So we're going to discuss those platforms. We're going to discuss kind of some things, but everyone has to do their own research, but we encourage everyone to vote. It is very important.
And
on that note, let's dive in.
Hello, all agents.
If you're thinking about making a positive change and you're curious about Oakwyn, feel free to reach out to us on our website at www.oakwyn.com/join and type into the message box pod 2021. And what would you get, Morgan?
A piece of mystery swag.
Yeah, and you'll learn about our brokerage and more about the company. Welcome back to the Oakwyn podcast. We're talking all things Canadian elections here. So, you know,
we're trying to encourage people to get out there and vote.
Yeah, get out there and vote. Morgan,
get out there and vote.
When was the first time you voted?
I was 19.
Yeah.
And I went because my dad made me.
Exactly. It's funny. That's exactly what happened to me too. My dad was like, it's your duty.
It's our duty to vote.
It's your duty to vote.
Yes.
And so we all actually kind of showed up at the together as a
youth?
family. Yeah. So me, my sisters, my mom, my dad, we all went to this elementary school and voted. It was kind of like a family vacation. That's what he called it.
That's what he called it.
Instead of taking us to Egmont.
Yeah.
He was like, we're going on vacation to the voting booth.
Wow.
Okay, I want to dive into that next. That's another question. That's a weird thing to happen. Okay, let's dive in. So basically, this is just like a quick cliff note for how it actually impacts real estate.
Yeah, that's right. So we wanted to look at it through the lens of real estate because, you know,
that's obviously
what we are.
Realtors.
We're realtors. Obviously, such a hot topic in Canada, but it's one of the primary actually platforms that a lot of the parties are discussing and kind of solutions to our housing crisis. And a lot of people think that there is a Canadian housing crisis. You know, if you look statistically year on year across Canada, just last year, there was a 24% increase in home prices across the board, across Canada, which, you know,
it's really crazy because the actual income of people has not changed.
Exactly.
Which is insane.
So it's, you know, that's a big marker and so, you know, obviously government regulations might come into place. You know, we're going to kind of talk about some of the points that they've talked about in their platforms for three of the major parties that have, you know, we're going to omit the Green Party and the Bloc Québécois because I actually don't know too much about them.
We're just going to go with the top three parties that I think people have already given. The poll has been taken by public vote that these are the three that might win.
And you can, we'll backlink on our site all the different platforms. So you can actually go to the Liberal Party, the Conservative Party, and also the NDP and see the different types of the platforms that they have so that we can.
Let's start with our government that was currently put in place, which is Liberals.
Trudeau.
Trudeau.
The handsome, dreamy. You should be saying that. Why am I saying that?
What the heck?
He's handsome and dreamy.
I just let
isn't
you
he?
have your moment. You were like really into him. I don't find him very attractive.
Why are you like?
I don't
creeped
find
out
him very
now.
attractive.
You
I'm
don't
like,
find him attractive?
I know.
Really? He kind of like he has this.
He's kind of like his
What do you
hair kind of like is nice, I guess.
Okay. You
But
don't find that he's not your cut of tea?
I'm a blonde type. Yeah. Look at my husband. He's Danish,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
I'm like,
I think he likes blondes too.
oh, my husband? No.
I'm joking.
Just a brunette all the way. Okay, so let's go into it. Liberal. So give us 3 points for liberal. What are they bringing in?
One of the main things
Proposing,
that
I guess.
they're obviously proposing some, well, they have actually quite a bit of on their platform, but one of the really interesting things they're talking about is kind of regulating the bidding for homes. So like making an open bidding.
Yes.
So instead of like kind of multiple offers, instead of it being a kind of open to the listing agent's discretion, but making kind of a platform to make it an open bidding process for competing properties. So there's that. Obviously, they want to increase the amount of housing in the next few years, which every platform says they want to do, and also a couple other things too.
Yeah, I think that as
What do you think about that open bidding?
First of all, that's what they do in Sydney, Australia.
Yeah,
and
I
that's
was
where they're
gonna
getting
say.
it from. They're getting it from there because then there's a little bit less of the, deceit of like how much our housing prices are going up. They think that we're dictating them going higher, but it's just they're trying to do almost like an auction.
Do you think it'll have an effect on
us? Yes. I think what's going to happen is there might be auction companies that come into place.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to have to be like being able to expose it and to show it, but might have the auction companies come in. And if that's the case, then I'm starting an auction company like tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
Because I think
Are
it's
you
a great.
gonna have a gavel?
No, I'll start like a hard courts or like, you know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
because that's like what they do in Sydney. They
yeah?
basically just hire a auctioneer to go like 1.1, 1.5, 1.5,
Oh, okay.
1.6, like that kind of thing.
Oh really?
And as the agent, you're just there to take care of the client, but mostly just expose the property.
And obviously give information and I think it's really interesting. I wonder how that would look. Is it going to be through technology? For me, I actually like anything that makes it more open source. So like anything that makes it more fair and open source for people, I actually am a big proponent of. Obviously, there's no perfect system to buying properties. There's still going to be some levels of exclusivity and stuff like that. But I actually like that idea of having it kind of more transparent. And, I think it's better for the public generally.
Yeah,
But,
and they're also liberals are also pushing banning new foreign ownership.
Yeah.
Which is a huge thing for Canadians the next 2 years.
How do you feel about that?
I mean, I don't think that's not Canada, to be honest, for me. Like, I'm like, personally, I'm like, our foreign investors and the people that are coming over are adding to our cities and our country as a whole. And they're bringing in, there are a lot of people in Vancouver specifically have built their wealth on real estate. So I think this foreign investment will take that away from a lot of people, which, it takes a lot to get to the place where you are actually owning property. So, I mean, that's just one of the other key things. They also talked about they're going to crack down on speculation and house flipping, which has always been a big problem for people. And they're really trying to push this kind of end chronic homeless by supporting communities across the country to do local-oriented programs.
Generally, I like to look at it from a logical perspective where I think we need more housing.
Yeah.
I think that generally we need more housing. The whole process of the applications to develop and kind of, it's just so arduous. It takes so much time. I feel like things need to get sped up. So, I'm not the prime minister, but I would, work on cutting some red tape and stuff like that. That being said, this is the liberal housing platform, the conservative housing platform, with Aaron.
I will say the 3 things that they're talking kind of about as liberals is they're trying to unlock home ownership. So they're going to be doing kind of helping renters become owners. They're going to build more homes. That's what they're trying to do is pushing more homes, and they're going to protect the rights of the locals.
A lot of the stuff is pretty general. They are politicians, so, which is, but I think having it as a sentiment in a real estate lens is something you want to look at. But, before you vote, I always, even before I vote, I basically, review all the different platforms. I look at who the prime minister could potentially be. And
so that's Justin Trudeau. Let's talk about conservatives.
Yeah. Yeah,
Who is our
sure.
prime minister? That's
Aaron O'Toole.
Aaron O'Toole.
Yeah, basically leading the
Conservatives.
Conservative Party, and basically, their platform for real estate is to build 1 million homes in the next 3 years, which is creating more supply, and they also want to ban foreign investment and ownership
as well.
Yeah,
they're very
So,
similar on that, guys. So doesn't really matter. One thing
That's what they're saying on their
O'Toole
site.
has said is they want to give like people a break from GST during the month of December. And they have a couple other little things that they want to do, which will help the locals go through the last 2 years of COVID, right?
Right.
It's kind of tough. Okay, let's dive into NDP.
Yeah. So Jagmeet Singh, and he's
First of all, he's the coolest. He's the coolest one out of the three.
I
of them.
relate to, obviously, I think, any immigrant kid relates to him, obviously, like
Yes.
being a first generation, Canadian. And so, yeah, I think that's pretty cool. That being said, he's, his platform, they have some real estate ideas as well. Obviously they're more focused on affordable housing and, they have specifically wanting to create 500,000 affordable residences for, I forget what classifies things as affordable, but that's their platform, really trying to focus on that. And they're thinking about, and I think it's pretty practical, I think it's a good idea, is to, waive the GST on affordable housing to make it easier for new home buyers to kind of get in. And they have a lot of different ideas on CMHC and how to make it more affordable for home ownership. They're really big on Canadians owning real estate. And so I think that, all the platforms have their different takes on it, but, it is important for us to really participate as agents and as influencers as well, to kind of get in and know what's going on and really, participate in this election.
He's also kind of pushing towards kind of getting CMHC to help for first time home buyers. They're trying to push, a little bit more of the tax on foreign purchasers, which I think is actually a really nice way of doing it. Is like, let's just tax them more. And then hopefully that money will go into our city planning.
I think and then you could shift that toward affordable housing versus, like if you just ban foreign ownership or foreign investment, that's, another.
But it's very interesting that the two larger parties, Conservatives and Liberals, have both said that they want to ban foreign investment.
Yeah, I think it's obviously they listen to their constituents who are Canadians that are local here that are probably frustrated with not being able to get into the market and maybe potentially being outbid by, a new immigrant or something like that. And, they're listening to their constituents, which, I think they have to do, and they got to make the best decisions for their people, right? So, and if that's the case,
how do you think that's going to affect our market if they do that? If they ban the foreign investments?
Well, it's obviously it's a kind of a buyer pool or a buyer stream that will kind of dry up because if we look at classically, specifically Vancouver real estate, there was in the mid 90s a very big push of Hong Kong residents coming to the city. A lot of my friends that I grew up with are from that generation of buyers. And then, in the early 2000s, it was a big mainland Chinese push of buyers here as well. So, that might, those segments might change. So, for us as agents, if those things do happen, we have to pivot and make sure that we're being able to serve our, local buyers. And maybe, I think they're not saying that no foreign ownership, but, maybe they're kind of delaying, in some cases, they're delaying foreign ownership by 1 or 2 years. So maybe the sales cycle changes a little bit.
But then this is the thing. The last 2 years, I haven't had, and I think this is very normal. There's been very little foreign buying since the COVID. And what happened? The market went up.
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys about that. What's your thoughts on that? Because I thought that when COVID happened, COVID kind of proved that it's if there's been no foreign buyers and the things are still going up, doesn't that, I thought this kind of argument went away. How all of a sudden is this just coming back?
Well, I think, you got to find a scapegoat, and a lot of reasons for because when a social issue happens, the easiest thing is to kind of blame like a certain segment or scapegoat a little bit. And I'm not trying to I don't think the government is trying to scape, but then they're hearing it from their constituents, right? And it's kind of a, something that they need to respond to, right? And some people still have that sentiment, Braden. And I think even though the last, couple of years, that hasn't really been the case and the market is driven up. So, I think it will have I think foreign ownership does have an impact on real estate. It has to, it's just logical. When you have So the Liberal government, like a year ago, announced 1.2 million permanent residents is going to be able to come into Canada over the next 3 years. So they, that is, and those are typically entrepreneurial immigrants who come with with wealth. And so if that's the case, they buy into, Vancouver market, into the Toronto market. So that does actually, I think it's going to have impact because that's a lot of money coming into Canada. So I can't imagine it not to have an impact, but I
think that's the biggest thing that everyone's talking about, to choose the party of like banning foreign investment. I don't know if that's like this, that's a big discussion point for a lot of people in our industry on who to vote for. Mm-hmm. But I mean, at the end of the day, I believe that it didn't make a huge effect. That it was just showing us, and with COVID, that people were locally buying local, and our prices still went up, and because very little supply in our markets, right? So what they need to do, and I think this is what they should do, is push more supply, and that's gonna really help everybody out, right? And how they can do that is to have a better way at the city planning to pass a lot of these new homes, right?
Yeah, and that makes it difficult because, obviously this is a federal election, so it's hard to kind of provincially or civically, like, be able to push these. Well, I guess they could because they're, it is the bigger body. But yeah, that's a part of it too, for sure, is to is to kind of cut some of the bureaucracy, cut some of the red tape. Maybe they fast track affordable housing and stuff like that. So, there's a lot of different things to kind of explore, but I feel that, it's important to kind of think about these issues, and if things do come down the pipeline, that new regulations, we need to embrace those changes positively and make it work for us, right?
What is for you and both of you guys, what is the number one thing that you're going to vote if there's like one thing in one party that will make you vote for that party? Like, what is the number one thing that you see on like the decision that they're proposing that is like, okay, like whether it's housing, taxing or business, like is it business for you? Is it like,
I look at it from like, so for me personally, I look at our deficit, and and that's I look at the budget aspect of it, and how they're spending our tax dollars and stuff like that, because that affects us indirectly, because we are, it'll change our tax tables. It'll change how inflation works out, how the government spends, so looking at their budget is kind of what I look at as, I don't mind paying taxes, but I want to make sure that the taxes are going to the right things.
Yes.
So I'm happy to pay taxes, but if the taxes are going towards weird special
bicycle
interest,
lanes.
like strange, I don't know. I actually like the bicycle lanes.
I like the bicycle lanes.
I think that was money well spent.
Yeah.
But because I use them all the time. But if they're going to special interests and they're doing other things, that's where I kind of get a little bit, I get a bit soggy on those things. So I kind of look at that, and I just in my personal life, I don't like to overspend. So I don't think people should overspend and spend today to spend tomorrow's dollars today.
Yeah, exactly.
So I really look at that kind of aspect and where they're prioritizing their.
That's a really good way of
how I look at it, because, Yeah, it's the lifeblood of
Brandon, what about you? Same thing?
Economy. Yeah, I am actually kind of concerned about just what they're doing for small businesses and medium-sized businesses. I probably wouldn't have said this last year because my business wasn't as big of a part of my life, but this year I'm very concerned with how's the government going to help small businesses recover? How's it going to help the restaurant industry, service industry, all the people kind of recover from COVID, and what sort of grants are they going to have moving forward for people to start up new businesses?
Right.
Like it's
That's
all about
key, super key.
Yeah, it's huge. Like I came from the music industry, and there's a company called Creative BC, which has a program called Amplify BC, which injects $20 million every couple of years into the music industry. And so many of my clients, when I was working with musicians, would get these grants, and it would allow them to hire me and hire marketing companies and stuff like that. And it's the most amazing program ever. And I wish that there was, it's a huge stimulator. The whole music industry in BC went bonkers when this started to happen. And now they've switched it over to being COVID recovery for musicians. And it's amazing. And if this was available in more areas of the market, specifically service industry and the hardest hit from COVID, I think you'd have a huge stimulus, and that's what I'm going to be looking forward to.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, really cool.
How about you, Morgan?
Mine's a little bit of both of you, like small business, thinking about how they're spending our money. But another big part of it, which I think is the crutch in our city, is like homelessness. I think that they're not helping people that have serious mental illness. And if they can somehow give back to the people that need it most, that's where I want that money to go to, right? That's so important to me. I think that, and also people's education. I think the other grants and things or scholarships and different key things to continue to create new opportunities for the young people. That's where our next generation is going. So that's the two big things.
I'm not so some people are just like, everyone's a bit different, and disclaimer, if you are, this is not to say that you're doing anything wrong, but some people are hardline party people. Like I'm like a liberal party, I'm conservative party, I'm like NDP, and I'll always vote that way no matter what. Like I'm not that way. I'm very.
I think our parents are like the older generation.
Maybe the older
is
generation is more like that.
You're a liberal, okay?
Yeah, I have voted. In the last several elections, I voted for different parties based on their platforms, based on my research, based on the needs that I think is going to be better for the city, the community, the country, and who is going to be the best leader specifically. And I think because, I think that that's important, that you have a good leader as well. So like I kind of weigh it. I'll probably say like 30% leader, 70% platform. And I kind of like do a pros and cons list of each, and then basically kind of.
Do you do local? Like, how obviously.
Yeah, I do all. I
more
voted
local.
Everything. Anything I can, like.
It's funny now. Do you feel like some of the people that are the local? Because I know a couple people that are the local representation for like the communities, because now we're older and I know some of them.
Oh, really?
And it's weird.
So you feel obligated to vote for them?
No, I don't. I'm like, absolutely not voting for that person.
But I know them.
Yeah. I do know them. It's weird.
Yeah.
We're getting old.
No, I don't know anybody. I know the corner store guy around the block.
That's what we want to know.
I know a few of my neighbors. They know people.
Are people in your neighborhood putting flags up?
Yeah, some people are putting that up. I don't, because I like to see how a leader reacts to. So I don't actually make up.
Do you judge them after they put the flag up?
No, I don't judge them. No, of course not.
Just joking.
But I actually don't make a decision until the day before the election, because I like to see how people respond under crisis. So I like to watch the debates and I like to watch those things, and I see okay, how does this person react under pressure? And then I look at, because that's a weighing factor for me. It's not just a platform thing. I think that, I think it's funny. Like even at Oakwyn, everything runs up to us. Like
I know,
we're like if the glass is broken, ultimately it's our fault.
It's our fault.
Yeah. So and so that's the kind of.
It falls on us. We're the foundation.
Yeah,
we're the foundation.
So I always look at that and I want to see how this person reacts under different pressure, right? Because so that's a part of it. And so I actually never make a decision until the end. So I know there's a lot of hardline party people. I am definitely not one of those people. I look at the platforms, look at the person, and then I kind of weigh the best.
That's a good way of doing it.
Well, yeah, it could be, or it could be better to kind of be. I'm not trying to say that one is better than the other, but that's just how
I think it's going to be a close race this year between two parties.
It's looking like it. Yeah.
Conservative and liberal. Yeah. I think they're really close, guys.
Yeah, it's going to be it's likely to be a minority government again, which I actually don't think is a bad thing. I am so happy we're in Canada and we're not part of a bipartisan system,
I know.
or a two-party system, which is what they have in the States. So we have a variety of parties.
Yeah.
And so it's good to kind of look at their platforms and see who's the best candidate.
So when do we vote, Michael?
So September 20th, but there's a lot of advanced voting that could take place as well. So you can feel free to look up on your riding. The accessibility is really, really great here. So, pay attention. Please, everyone that's listening to this podcast, vote. Have some conversations with friends and family about it, and where they, because that kind of paints the picture in a certain way as well, because, you might get a fresh idea and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that's something that we should all do.
Yes. Love it. Thanks guys for paying attention to us.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Yeah. And I think on that note, guys, thank you for listening to the Oakwyn podcast. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please rate us
5 out of 5
on the podcast platform you're listening to it, and write us a review. because we're desperate and we need external gratification. If we don't get it, we might quit. No, I'm just kidding. And yeah, and if you are interested in Oakwyn, go to our website, www.oakwyn.com/join. In the message box, pod 2021, and you'll get a free piece of mystery swag.
Thanks very much, guys.
Okay, see you next time. Bye.